So if the algorithm has swung in my favour for a change and recommended this video to you, happy days, because I think it's a valuable video. I'm sharing watch brand Addiesdive, which you've never heard of before. You're going to find out more very soon, obviously, by watching my entire review. And if you're thinking about a dive watch and you don't want to spend much money, you like the look, you like the feel, you like a clicky bezel, you like something which looks like a Rolex but costs not much money, you're in the right place. You're on the right video. Carry on. But what about if you don't want to spend your money on something which maybe you've seen before and you can just get on Amazon? Just as easy a purchase, you can go onto Addiesdive's website, which of course there is a link in the description, and go and buy a watch which is cheaper with a better specification and there's more variety. It's a win-win. And today's watch is an unusual one because it's not like a lot of the other homages you see. It's effectively, you've got a few other watches which have basically got into some kind of watch orgy and they've given birth out of a watch vagina, today's watch, and that is this one. This is an Addiesdive with lots of quirky little design cues, which I like, and I think you're going to have to find out, do they work? Does it amalgamate just over £70 into a watch which is going to whoop the butt of an INVICTA? Or is it just a heap of junk? But you're here still watching me anyway. Let's get into it. Before we begin, there's some information you need to know. Some research. Dan's research. Research. Yes, that research was very easy. I just went onto Amazon today, August 24th, 2024. And you know what I did is I just typed in INVICTA Pro Diver. That's the watch I'm comparing to a bit today to give you an idea. And it was about £100. Really easy. That's my research done. But madness out of the way, let's have a closer look at this watch. Is it any good? Here's the review. So here it is. This is the Addiesdive. Its code name is the AD2064. Rolls off the tongue beautifully. I got this as a generous gift from Addiesdive. Now, before you rage quit and think this is a promoted video because he's been paid and he's sleeping with the enemy, that's not true. I am sleeping with the enemy, but that's a whole different video. Point is, today I'm talking about a watch which was sent to me and I was asked just to give my honest opinion and just to be as me as possible. The price, it was about £90, and I thought, well, that's not bad, you know, it's still cheaper than an INVICTA, which I've been referring to constantly, and 20% off was the deal. It automatically took that amount off and it took it down to just over 70 quid. That's amazing. So I've sized this up, and by that I mean I took out 3 links to fit my manly wrist. My manly wrist is 7¼ inches, which is very average to be honest with you, and it fits beautifully. The clasp has 3 micro adjusts and is a pressed clasp. It does say on the website it comes with a milled clasp and 6 micro adjusts, so just be wary that that might not be the case if you bought this exact watch. Colours available aren't just this beautiful satin black finish one. You can get it with blue or green. I went for this one because I just think it looks the most military-esque, the most subtle, most beautiful and delicious. Now, specification wise, with those 3 links taken out, it weighs 158 grams, which is slightly on the heavier side, but still not far off what I say is a sweet spot of 150 grams. Case size, which is effectively from here to here, not including this flared out little half a crown guard, that is 40.8 millimeters. I measured this with my trusty measuring calipers, so I verified everything to make sure you know what you're getting. The length of the watch, excluding these male end lengths, that basically means you've got a penis sticking out here. Yes, I said penis in a watch review, but that's the bit sticking out there. The opposite to that, where it sticks in, it's called female, hence the bad joke about penises. I've said that far too many times. Including these nubbins sticking out, it's 53.5 mil long, which sounds too long. But we don't mind things being too long now, do we? Because there's always the worry that if it's sticking out too much, it'll stick out across your wrist too much. But because they curve almost immediately, it fits on my beautifully manly wrist quite immediately and comfortably. Very good. Now, if you want to change this bracelet out, which I have swapped out just to see how easy bracelets come on and off, solid end links and 20 mil width. So if you have a collection of straps in your collection, you're going to be able to pop this on quite easily. I put this on something else and it was an easy swap over, as long as you got the right tools of course, but some bracelets are an absolute pig. The thickness, including this ever so slightly raised crystal, which is completely flat, is 13.1 millimeters, which is, I'd say, still within the sweet spot, but I would prefer it ever so slightly thinner. This crown is screw down, 6.2 millimeters, and the good thing about that is it's got loads of gaskets in there. And by gaskets I mean little rubber rings just hidden in here, as there are gaskets in where the crystal's held in and in this screw case back here, which all add up to apparently giving this 200 meters water resist. And in the interest of reviewing and testing, I took this to a family swimming pool session where I jumped off a diving board, I was thrashing about in the water, I wasn't drowning, it was just how I swim, and it was completely fine. It survived utterly unscathed, no leakage, no misting up. It survived diving. And one of my bad dad jokes was, instead of calling it Addiesdive, which is basically just a made up brand name from China, I would say Daddy's Dive. The movement inside here is beating away is the NH35 Seiko. Any of you who don't know about that, it's a generic Seiko movement with a date complication. It's very cheap, about $30. They throw it in a lot of these watches because it's reliable, rugged, easy to set up. You don't get many problems. Couple of days power reserve. You give it about 60 winds if you left it to go dead, and it fully charges back up again. And it's just a lovely little basic simple movement, and they have put this movement in watches up to £500 or dollars. Beautiful sapphire crystal on here, including this nipple, cyclops on the top, which is also, like I said, sapphire. There's a very subtle blue AR coating. Some of these watches used to have the most garish blue purple sort of AR coating. They've really toned that down. It's really spot on now. Sword hands, and the dial have C3 lume. They say it's Swiss lume. You just have a lumed pip at the 12 o'clock, which is sort of stuck on there. This is a ceramic bezel. It looks aluminium, or aluminum as you Americans say, and it's got white paint filling the engraving in there. Little dashes all the way up to 20. Everything's made of 316L stainless steel. Apparently, I can't verify that. I don't know how to work out what something's actually made of without being a scientist, but it looks and feels and smells and tastes like C316L to me anyway. This bezel turns that way and has 120 clicks. Lines up okay. Sometimes it lines up slightly to the right and sometimes it's absolutely perfect. But you know what, for a watch this cheap, it's very good. Polished elements on the side. Split pin adjustment for removal of the links. That was a piece of cake. Really good. Sometimes they were an absolute nightmare to size up, but this was really easy. Press clasp. Plain on here, no etching or branding on there, but there is a signed crown. I think I've covered all the stats and the specs. If I've missed anything, I'm very sorry. Now we move on to what do I really think about this watch. The first thing I've alluded to earlier was the mismatching colours with the lume on the hands and the dial, slightly annoying. I don't like having a cyclops. I really wish it just was NH38, no date complication Seiko movement, and it was just 12369, known as a quarter dial. That would have been nice, real symmetry. I would prefer an integrated pip at the 12. I just think it's a bit ugly having this ever so slightly misaligned. Although matching in lume colour, which is good for a change. Pip glued on at the 12, a little bit of an eyesore, but could be worse. The screwing of the crown, it feels like it's only got about 2 to 3 threads to go on. I would like it had a little bit more. It feels like once it's caught, there's only like 1 to 2 turns and it's engaged. That's it. There's a few baggy links here on the bracelet. As you can see, here's a pretty big gap there. You can see daylight through it and you can see how it's been pushed together. It's a little bit of a hair puller sometimes, but it doesn't sound cheap. It feels okay, and as a pressed clasp goes, this is decent. It's not rattly and cheap and nasty. Could be better, could be worse. But the end links are okay. They fit okay in there. A little bit of play in there. As you see, there's quite a bit of wobble. Left and right, up and down. Doesn't feel like it's going to fall out. This one's a bit tighter than the other one, but bracelet is often the weak spot on these kind of watches, and this one's no exception, but I've seen a lot worse. It could be a bit better, but do bear in mind it was just over £70. Bezel action. I'm not saying this is a negative, I'd say it's a neutral, because it's not bad, it sounds a bit cheap, but feels pretty decent. It's very consistent. By that I mean it's not some snotty bits. Sometimes you can get stuck or it's stiff and then it's loose. It's really smooth. It just feels and sounds ever so slightly cheap. Minor middle of the road criticism. I've always complained about the Addiesdive logo and the branding. Sounds like Addiesdive or Adam's Dive. Don't know what Adam's diving into, but yeah, the logo, even when you look at it up close, it doesn't really make much sense. I know if you look at it in detail, blown up, you can go, oh look, it's a diver's or a pilot mask, a scuba diver's goggles or something. It's too complicated, but proportionally, it looks decent on the dial, at least. Now for the glittering array of positives, because again, remember, if you were to buy an INVICTA for around £100 with the same movement as this, you wouldn't get sapphire, you wouldn't get ceramic bezel insert, you wouldn't get lume anywhere near as good as this, which I'll show you as the final hurrah, if you will, of this video. You wouldn't get a nice feeling bezel. I felt a number and they're not very nice. They're a bit stiff, they're quite difficult to turn. They don't have a nicer feel as this one. And on an INVICTA, you would not get a bracelet quite as good as this. So objectively, you are getting everything better with this watch. Now aesthetically, this is where it's clever, where the weird orgy of design things element have come out and out has squirted this thing. You've got a bezel insert, which I can't align with any other kind of Rolex style watch or Tudor or Omega or anything. This feels like something I've never seen before. The dial is like something from a CWC diver. The hands as well, there was a mil spec or a mil sub they call it. There was one that Rolex did that had sword hands. The CWC mil spec divers, the RN diver, they have these sword hands, but not on this style case. That's a Monin case on the CWC. This is more like a Rolex case, if you will, but it's not like the old mil sub cases. They had thinner lugs. So there's lots of weird like yeses and nos to what it's playing tribute to and not. It's a weird blend, and if they did have a date complication, they didn't have a Cyclops. So it is definitely a weird blend, but I think it works. I think the symmetry is just about okay, even though it's got that hideous blob at the 3. The white inside the bezel insert, it's got a bit of a complementary going on with the automatic 200 just above the 6 and then the Addiesdive logo. I've been drawn to wearing this a lot for all my kind of day-to-day beta sporty activities, and I've enjoyed wearing it. Says this has got a little bit of that magic, you know, it's got a bit of that X factor. So before I give you the final money shot, the thing I would finish this video with before that is, do I recommend it? If I bought this with my own money, £71, I would be delighted. I've bought many a watch which cost this and more, and it's been mildly disappointing, but still acceptable. The fact that this has got only a few little niggles here and there, this is something which adds up to being very good indeed. Here's your money shot. As usual, for an Addiesdive, it's blooming gorgeous. The lume is stunning, lasts very well. It pops. It just looks so good. I just love lume. What do you think? Don't forget to subscribe or I'll be deeply upset. Thank you very much. Bye for now.